Let's say I'm an engineer. I was able to set up Pi event frames, which automatically detects downtime events of the assets in my facility. However, I usually only find out about these downtime events 15 minutes after they occur. One thing I would like to have is alerts sent to me right when the downtime event starts. What I have open right now is an email alert sent by Pi Notifications. In the message, you can see that my particular machine, BP533, went into a downtime state. You can see the status as downtime. And from this particular email message, I can go ahead and either acknowledge that this has occurred or acknowledge with comments. Now, instead of waiting 15 minutes to be told from my colleagues that there's a problem, I can quickly go ahead and assess the problem with this particular asset and try to come up with a solution to reduce the overall downtime duration and maximize our production. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we can set this up. Alright, so Pi Notifications is built directly into Pi System Explorer. You can create notifications either at the template level for a specific type of asset, or you create notifications for individual assets. Let's set one up at the template level to alert me of downtime events for all my assets. I'll go ahead to the library, and you'll notice that we have the element templates, the event frame templates, but we also have another template called notification template. This is where I can configure my notifications. I'll go ahead and create a new notification template. And I'm going to go to the Overview tab and call this notification template Downtime Notifications. Now there's some options below here, but I'm going to go ahead and cover these in a little bit later. Now I'm going to go to the Trigger tab, and I really need to specify what type of assets I want to target here for these notifications. And I'm going to go ahead and select the Select Target button. And what I'm really interested in is all my assets. That's basically defined by the OE unit. Now, whenever my assets go into a downtime state, the current status of that particular asset is basically being monitored by the status attribute. So I want to fire off this notification whenever that status attribute becomes not running. Now I could go ahead and create a new condition for that. And the condition will basically be a comparison. Now one thing to note here is that if you have multiple comparisons set up, they will be evaluated using a logical OR. If you want multiple conditions to be true before firing off a notification, then you would select the AND conditions. In any case, I only have one comparison to do against my status attribute, so I'll go ahead and select comparison. Now, my input is basically the attribute that I want to monitor for this condition. So I'm going to go ahead and click on search. And you notice I have my status attribute for my assets. Go ahead and select that. And I want this notification to fire off whenever the status is not equal to running. You also notice that we have other types of conditions. For example, I could specify this notification should fire off whenever the rate of change for a particular process value exceeds some threshold. In any case, I'm going to select not equal, and I want to compare this to a particular value. I could also compare this to a particular attribute, but in this case, I'm just going to compare it to running. Now there's an option for deadband, and this is really helpful for noisy data that's used as a trigger. I do not want to get a notification each time the input value bounces around my target value. I will only resend a notification if the input value leaves the deadband and then reaches my target value again. In a similar way, the time true option will only send me a notification once the trigger condition is true for X amount of time. This just helps me reduce false positives. There's also another option for priority. The priority option is really useful when I have multiple trigger conditions and want one condition to have precedence over another condition. I could assign a higher priority for that condition to be evaluated. Finally, I can assign state groups for different levels of severity, and this information will be specified in my notification alert. For example, if I'm monitoring particular process data, I would like to know. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK, and you'll notice that I have a new comparison condition here. You can also schedule this notification to run either naturally or periodically. For my downtime events, I want to run these naturally. Whenever I get a new downtime or status not running event, then I'm going to go ahead and fire off a notification. There's also a resend interval, and the resend interval sends additional alerts as a reminder that the condition that triggered the notification has not been resolved or it has not been acknowledged yet. There's also a non-repetition interval, which basically prevents Pi notifications from sending similar alerts that are associated with the same notification within a specified interval. Here I'm going to go ahead and set my resend interval to 1 minute. Okay, now that we've configured the trigger for this particular notification, let's go ahead and take a look at the message that gets sent with this notification. You'll notice that there's a global default email, and this global default email message cannot be modified. What I can do is I can right click on this default email and duplicate that. You'll notice that we have a new copy of the global default email, and I could go ahead and rename this as well. I could call this downtime email. Now for this particular email message, you're going to have information about the name of the particular notification, which will be the downtime notification. You'll have information about the Pi server, the database, the start time of this notification, the trigger time of this notification, information about the path to this particular asset, and the state and priority. If you wanted to, you could also go ahead and add values pertaining to particular attributes. For example, if I wanted to know what the status was, I could easily type that in. And then on the right-hand side, these are basically items that you could add to the content of your message. For example, I'm interested in a status, and I could go ahead and bring the value of status into this email message. Now, there's a couple of different views here. There's a view for HTML preview, which will basically just preview the contents of my message. And I also have a plain text preview where I can preview a plain text version of my email message. Okay, now that we have our downtime email message configured, let's go ahead and set up the subscribers who will receive this email. If we go to subscriptions, you'll notice that currently there are no subscribers to this particular notification. There are really 4 types of notification contacts, which you can see on the right-hand side. You have an individual contact, a escalation team, a group contact, and you have standalone delivery endpoints. To configure the contacts, you can go to the Contacts plugin, which is located on the bottom left-hand corner of Pi System Explorer. Let's go ahead and just take a look at this. You'll notice that we have the 4 different groups shown here in the top left-hand corner. Now, I could go ahead and do a search, and let's say I'm going to search for myself. You'll notice that I have information about my email address as well as my name. If you're using Windows Active Directory, you can actually search against those Windows user accounts. You can also set up notification groups. For example, if I create a new group and define this group as downtime group, then whoever I put inside of this group will receive a notification whenever the notification condition is true. Messages are generally sent to all members of the group simultaneously. So I'm going to go ahead and do a search. Now I'm going to go ahead and use a wildcard. Now I generally don't recommend you using wildcards because it will search your entire Windows Active Directory. But I really only have 2 contacts here, so I'm going to go ahead and just pull them back. Now, if I wanted to add somebody to this group, all I have to do is drag the person's name underneath this group, and I really want to add their email to this group. I could do the same thing for another person. You could also define escalation teams. An escalation team is basically an order collection of delivery endpoints or groups. Notifications are sent sequentially to each of the members of the escalation team until the notification is acknowledged. Let's go ahead and I'm going to add myself to this escalation team. And I'm going to add my colleague, Martin Bryant, to this escalation team. I can set an escalation period of, let's say, 5 minutes. And basically, if I do not acknowledge this notification within 5 minutes, then the second person inside of this list, Martin Bryant, will receive the notification. Now, if everyone inside this list receives the notification and nobody acknowledges it in 5 minutes, then we can specify the options that we want to have happen. We can either stop the escalation, or we could repeat this process X number of times. So I'll be notified, and if I don't acknowledge it, then Martin Bryan will get notified. If he doesn't acknowledge it, then it's going to go back to me and it's going to repeat. You also have the option to repeat indefinitely while the particular condition is active. Finally, you have delivery endpoints. This is basically where you can configure your different delivery endpoints for different types of workflows. I'm going to go ahead and check all of these in. And now I'm going to go back to my notification template. Now for the subscriber, I'm just going to use something simple. I'm going to put my name on here. And I can also specify what type of email format I want to send. And for this, I'm going to send the downtime email. You also have the option to test your email by clicking on the test button. All right, let's go ahead and do one more thing. Here you have the option to define what will happen whenever you create a new element based on the element template that you're monitoring with your notification template. You can either apply a new notification directly to that new element, or you can apply a new notification to that new element and automatically start it, or you don't have to apply a new notification. I'm going to go ahead and check this in. And now I need to go to the notifications plugin and apply these new notifications to my overall equipment effectiveness assets. So go ahead and create a new notification from template. The template I want is a downtime notification. And you'll notice that all the OEE unit assets are automatically selected for me. I'll go ahead and select all of them and click on OK. You'll notice 40 notifications were created. And if I click on one of these downtime notifications, you'll notice that we're currently looking at BP 532, and our condition is basically whenever the status is not running. For all of these, I can select all of them, click on play, and it'll automatically start running these notifications and basically start monitoring my assets. Now, once I start my notifications, I can also monitor when my notifications are received if I go to the History tab. I can look at active notifications, recent notifications, and I can also specify a time range to look at notifications for a particular time range and asset. Now you'll notice that with asset-based analytics and Pi notifications, you can really get instant alerts on downtime events. And with the use of event frames, you can go ahead and perform deeper analysis into your downtime events.